of undefeated, I will tell you this. That can put on some immense amount of pressures. And one thing that can be very dangerous when you look at your record, and the same thing can come to rankings, anytime you start to cling to something, particularly a number that really doesn't matter in the first place, I mean, it really doesn't have anything to it. One of the things that can happen is you can start to compete, and you start doing what we call trying not to lose as opposed to trying to win. You will also be so tied to that number. Let me give you a great example. Let me tell you a story. Matt Lindland, 1994. He was the number one wrestler in the country that was supported with a number one ranking, that was supported with a number one seed, that was supported with a undefeated record. Okay, back up. 2 months before the season starts, he gets called. He's going to the University of Nebraska. He gets called into a coach's meeting with the head coach. Head coach sits him down and wants Matt to write all of his goals down, actually write them down. Very typical trait done in leadership, right? But this is what Matt writes it all down, brings it in, hands it to the coach. Coach looks it over in front of Matt, and one of the things that Matt put on there is undefeated. I want to be the national champion, but I also want to be undefeated. I have a perfect season. Coach goes, well, Matt, that's not very realistic. I mean, I like the national champion thing part, but at some point you're going to lose. Now, the coach's message to Matt, and this is a veteran coach, very good coach. The message to Matt is, I don't want you to forget your goals when you taste defeat. Undefeated is not a realistic thing. You've been doing this sport for 11 years. You've never come close to an undefeated season. However, I do like using all of the matches and all of the experience, using the season and the training and the weight cuts. I do like that as a way to spring at the end at the right time and capturing the big goal, which is the national championship. That was the coach's message. But it's not what the coach said. The coach said, you can't go undefeated. And he said this to a young, vulnerable athlete who believed everything that coach said. So Matt walked out of that room believing, I cannot be undefeated. He walked into the room thinking he could be. He walked out of it thinking, I cannot be undefeated. So every single time he got on the mat that season, is this going to be the one? Then he'd win that match. He'd go into the next one. Everything was great. His training was on point. His weight was on point. He's warmed up. He's ready to go. He puts his headgear on and he has to ask himself as he walks onto the mat to shake hands, is this the one? Is this the one that coach told me was going to happen? Every single time he had to do that, all the way to the NCAA tournament where he was undefeated, Big 8 champion, number one seed, and he asked himself that in the very first round against the lowest ranked guy, which is who the number one guy takes on in the opening round, and he asked himself that same question. It hasn't happened yet. For sure it's going to happen, and this is the last tournament. I wonder if this is the one. You guys know how this story ends. He got upset. It was the one. Whether you believe it or you don't believe it, you're right. The old expression, but there's so much truth to it. He believed his coach. He believed it all year long. He carried this around with him. Coach said you can't be undefeated. Is this the one? And sooner or later, it becomes the one. When Khabib's talking about being undefeated and being undisputed and being the champ, I could only imagine the pressure that he has on him, but I also think there's another side to this interpretation, which is if you accept this is a two-man sport, if you accept that everything is on the line, if you accept how many different ways there is to get beat, and though I don't want it, I'm not going to hide from it. I don't suggest for you that Khabib is hiding from it. I just suggest for you as a natural human being in a very tough sport, I'm observing his career. I'm listening to his words. I would just hope for Khabib, and I mean this sincerely, that he could just relax a little bit, that he could just enjoy a little bit of it, that he could stand back and see something wonderful that not only he has accomplished, he's continuing to accomplish. The other side of it, pressure is what turns a piece of coal into a diamond. You also have to be very careful as a coach that you don't take all the pressure off of your athlete, that you don't let him know that accepting loss and defeat is natural and normal, and life goes on. There's a weird balance. It's a very tough balance, because you're also dealing with a human being who isn't going to be doing that forever. So you got a competitive nature you're trying to mentor and nourish. You have a human element that you also must nourish because you are the mentor.
He's been running these streets for years, and he's still here, and so is fear. Undisputed, never lost a round. Bodies hit the ground when the bad guy comes to town. American gangster, this man'll put a hurt on you. You'll be crying for your mama by the time he's through. You better believe that your life's in danger when you see the American gangster.